So you're creating a video that you know potentially thousands of people could eventually be watching. But there you are alone in your office or alone in a field in the snow recording something, and you're talking to an inanimate object. And that disconnect in your brain that results because of the thing that's happening, that can create a sort of anxiety, and that anxiety can affect the most expressive parts of your face, and that can result in what's called by actors dead eyes. So if you feel awkward staring into a lens, you're correct to feel that way. You're talking to something that obviously can't respond. In this video, we're going to do a drill to help you override that internal thing that's going on so you can look and feel more like yourself when you're making your videos. So let's get into the science of why things like dead eyes even happens in the first place, and it has to do with your nervous system. So we need to start with anatomy, but I'll keep it really quick. The polyvagal theory was developed by Dr. Stephen Porges, and that theory explains how we connect with other human beings, and it has to do with our nervous system. And part of this is that we have a social engagement system, and this social engagement system, it turns on when we connect with other human beings. Like we see another person, we send these signals back and forth, and it engages when we feel safe. And this also affects our physiology. Like we give these signals to the other person using our eyes and our voice. Our voices become more melodic. Our eyes have the muscle systems around them engaged. They sort of crinkle when we smile. And that's how we communicate with other people and how it affects our feelings. Now think about your camera. It doesn't do any of these things, but you're still trying to engage with it. There's a famous experiment called the still face experiment by Dr. Ed Tronick. And in this study, a parent plays with their baby and everything is going great. Then the parent actually stops moving their face and just stares blankly at their baby. And the baby tries naturally to get a reaction, but then gets frustrated, disengages, and upset. So this is a study where they discovered this. And this sort of thing can happen to you too. Like not long into recording a solo episode, for example, because you're pouring all of your energy into a lens, but the lens is inanimate and it gives you absolutely nothing back. And your nervous system will actually interpret this thing happening as some kind of rejection. Now, your body switches gears. It moves out of that really safe social engagement mode. That's the one like from the study that where you feel really safe with another person, where you're giving them those signals back and forth and everyone's saying, hey, yeah, we're all on the same page. It moves out of that into sort of a defensive kind of mode. And this switch is really expensive to your metabolic system. You're trying to force a smile or force showing emotions or force showing that engagement that you aren't actually feeling. And this creates a dissonance in your mind. Like your mouth is smiling, but your eyes, they're dead. And those dead eyes just don't match the smile that you're throwing out there. Your eyes are flat because the muscles in them aren't engaged. And to make matters worse, the lens kind of looks like a threat, scientifically speaking, at least, because predators in the animal kingdom in general stare at their prey or whatever they're setting their sights on with a large, fixed, unblinking, dilated pupil, which is kind of like the camera lens. So even though it's just a scientific thing, subconsciously, you could be reacting a little bit to that. Now, I'll put all the links to all of the science here, from the polyvagal theory right through to this unblinking eye thing in the description. So now that we know the biology involved, we need like a way to deal with all of this. And one way to do this is changing how we perceive the camera itself. The first part of this is the acting theory. And then I'm going to give you a drill that borrows from improv. Stanislavski, who's best known for method acting, had a concept that's useful here, and it's called the circles of attention. Imagine 3 circles, small, medium, and large. And the small circle is just you. You're focusing in on yourself, like you're wondering, how do I look? Or is my hair okay? The medium-sized circle is just you and one other person. And this is where the connection really happens. Now, the large circle is the whole room. That's the whole audience or the millions of people watching your video. Dead eyes, they happen in acting when you're thinking about that large circle, the one with millions of video watchers, because the audience is invisible. Even if you're on a stage, those bright lights, you oftentimes can't even see the audience, but you still, even without seeing them, you feel the weight of all those eyeballs, all those potential viewers who are judging you. And that puts a ton of pressure on your nervous system. You can also get stuck in that small circle that's just you, because you can get really self-conscious about talking at a wall. And even if you're alone talking at that wall, you start monitoring your own speech, even though you're the only one there to hear it. So the fix for this is to just stay in the medium circle. And this is because you can try to trick your brain into believing the lens is actually another person. So in improv and in acting, we use a technique called personalization. And that means we're not talking to an audience if we're doing a show, just like in a podcast, you're not talking to listeners, those things as a whole demographic. You are talking to one person, the individual, the one listener. And that's because you can only talk to a person. Now, actors and other professionals who speak to a lens, like news broadcasters, really noteworthy ones, a technique that they'll use is imagining a person that they're talking to specifically. They'll take somebody that they really like in their life, a partner or a really close friend, and they'll imagine that they're delivering their newscast or their monologue or whatever it is to that specific person. And that's what adds the connection, because if you're talking to a whole group, that becomes really performative. When I was a dance fitness instructor, I taught a group of 20 people at the same time. And when I was up on stage, I delivered everything to all of them. It was very performative. It wasn't very personal. But when I'm doing a podcast, I imagine I'm talking to you, one person on the other side of the lens or the other side of the microphone. And that's a very different feeling for me and hopefully for you, the listener. And when I deliver these, I'm always thinking about what you think, you, the listener. That's who I'm delivering things to. And that's when we get the social engagement, that theory, that system back. It will change our voices. It will change what our faces look like. Here's that drill to help make this happen. And just a quick note, if you want these tips and the drills that I do in these videos as written text-based instructions, you can subscribe to my newsletter at stereoforce.com to get them delivered to you in that format. So this drill I call talk to the face, and it kind of creates an external safety cue for your brain to use while you record. The first step is to pick someone you actually like or love, somebody that you really trust, and someone who makes you smile and feel good and feel safe. So you're probably not picking someone from your professional life for this one. And the next step is to print out a photo of that person or pull it up on your phone and put it directly next to your camera lens. And you might do this using a phone holder. If you're using your phone, you can put it on a stand. Just don't cover the lens. Put it right next to it. Research shows that looking 2 to 5 degrees below the lens, the center of the lens, still looks like the eye is making contact with the viewer. So it's going to look like eye contact if someone's watching your video. So having that photo right next to it can work, even for videos that you're actually going to put online. So I'll also link the study with that eye contact research in the description. Now, the next step is to just start recording and ignore the lens. Just look at the photo. Speak your video's intro to that person directly and practice directly doing that, literally by using their name. So you might go, "Hey, Monroe, I've been waiting to tell you about this. I just learned that Trader Joe's is closing." I don't even have Trader Joe's in Canada. That's a bad example. Anyways, you can cut out the part with their name or just keep this particular step for practice. Then compare your video and notice what changes. Like you might notice vocal changes. Your pitch might drop when you're talking to this person instead of talking to the lens, or notice any visual changes, like a tension in your face might change, or your body language, how you hold yourself on the chair might change. You probably will get less performy. It's not going to look like you're delivering something to a large audience. You're just kind of talking to a person that you know, a person in that photo. So once you've done this a few times, you can then remove the training wheels, as it were. So the advanced pro version is to remove that photo and then just stare at the lens. And now you're going to use your visual imagination. So this is an acting technique where you're endowing an object with human qualities. So you're visualizing your friend's face, where the lens is, and you're kind of projecting that mental image onto the lens. And you want to try actively looking at them like you would naturally in person. Now, humans have a huge range from not being able to visualize to being able to really hyper visualize things. Most people are somewhere in between those two things. So that's probably you. But if you can't visualize at all, which I think is like up to 3% of the population, you can keep the photo there until you're comfortable to remove it, or just don't remove it. You can always have it there if you want. So the most important thing here is you don't want to like passively stare at the lens or your visualization on top of that lens. This is like if you were actually thinking about your notes or a script, your eyes will sort of fixate on the person that you're talking to. That's what would happen naturally in real life if you're really distracted by trying to remember a line. And that can end up giving you that sort of glazed over, I'm not quite there look. Like if you notice someone who's not really listening to you when you're talking, I get that a bit. That's kind of that sort of glazed over look. Now you sort of want to scan the person that you're envisioning talking to here for their reaction. And that can kind of give you the body language or the signals in your face or eyes that you are paying attention to their reaction. These are micro movements in your eyes, and they make you look more alive and more engaged, and they remove the dead eyes. Now, a couple more things about those dead eyes. So make sure you remember to blink. If we stare, we sometimes change how we naturally blink. So we want to make sure that we don't reduce our blink rate too much. And we also want to make sure that the people watching us can see our eyes and see our blinking. So make sure your lighting is up enough, bright enough, so people can actually see your features, like your eyes. So dead eyes. This is biology, it's human nature. And if this happens in your videos, you'll pick up that something is slightly off. And it's going to make your videos a little bit harder to watch. There's going to be a disconnect there because it isn't your natural self. So you can use these tools from acting, from improv to help you out, to come across as more natural talking to the camera, because you'll feel more natural talking to the camera if you imagine, if you visualize that you're talking to a person that you know. So get that picture next to the camera, give it a few tries, see what happens, see what the difference is, and see if this will work for your next video. And if you're still here, I have to mention before I go the great podcast series that's called Dead Eyes. It's by a really well-known improviser and actor called Connor Ratliff, and it's about his experience of being told that he has dead eyes and everything that sort of went from there. It's an excellent series with a lot about how we deal as humans with things like rejection, and there's a lot of learning in that. So I really recommend that series, and that's all I have for this episode. Bye for now.